Hey gang, it is Tuesday, January 31st, 2017, and I showed in my previous video the repair that I did on the front section of this 51 Ford fender, and I'm going to do a repair video on this rear section as well. A lot of rust there, obviously a common problem, and the owner provided me with this panel, and you can see the information is there, who makes it and whatever, but nice and thick, and appears to be galvanized, so I'll have to take some precautions in prepping that and welding it on. But I'm going to show you how I would fix it. This isn't just a simple cut and go. There's a little more to it than that, and let me get set up and I'll start showing you how I do it. Alright, so here's what I'm starting with on doing this patch repair. The fender has no real straight lines anywhere on it. I mean, there's a line up here, but it's not relative to anything that I'm working on. The patch panel, as I measured off before, it's 9 inches at the back corner, and it's about 8.5 where this turn is made. Well, you don't want to just cut to 9 inches, because then if you make a mistake, you don't know where you're at. You don't know where the end result is. So what I like to do is I create a reference point. In this case, I laid a piece of tape and I measured from this corner down here up, and I marked a line at 10.5 inches. And that's the same thing across as I go until I get to this corner, which I know it's shorter, and I measured at 10 inches. I know it's a 1/2 inch difference here at this location. These two are they're relative, but it just gives me a reference point. The idea is I can measure from that line down 2 inches all the way across, and that gives me an 8.5 inch cut line. So now instead of 9 inches and guessing whether I'm right or not, I've got 8.5, so I have something to play with back and forth a little bit. And then as I fit the piece, I can measure to the corner of the new panel when it's set up in place, and if I get from this corner to here at 10.5, I know I'm good. Same way with this location here, and then again in this shorter corner. So now what I'll do is I'll lay a piece of tape and follow that pattern and cut off the rest of this fender, and then I'll work towards test fitting the patch panel. So as you can see, I laid my tape on my 2 inch mark and cut off the bad stuff. So that's out of the way. And now I did some fitting of this patch. And you know, as with anything, they're not always going to be an exact match. And one thing I noticed real quick is this turn is not crisp. On the original fender, this is a very hard corner, and you probably see there maybe this is not, but there's really very little I can do about that to change it. The other thing I notice is, being that I've cut this again a little bit short of the total length, was a good thing, because if you can see, this curve up front here fits inside of the original curve. And basically, I believe the design of this is to fit inside of the original fender. It's not supposed to be a butt weld anymore. It's designed to be basically an overlap, and then a bit of filler to smooth up that transition. There's really no other way to fix that unless somebody makes what would be an exact replica of this fender, and I don't see it happening. So basically, what I'll do is I'll clamp it in place. I'll check my measurements from here to my lines, get everything square, and then weld this in. Of course, I'll prep the metal bare where I need to on the inside, and of course this patch panel, and apply weld through primer. So that's how I see it. I don't know any other way to make this work, because if I go and try to fit this corner exact, it ends up about a 1/2 inch short over here on this side. Same way, if I go to this corner and try to butt weld, it's going to end up short on the other end here. So really not much I can do about it, and it goes back to the, what's available, I guess, as far as patch panels. So that's what I'm going to do, and let me get started doing that. Well, I'm not so sure this is going to work the way it's supposed to work, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. The patch, while it is a good solid piece of metal, it doesn't quite fit. Basically, I've got a little bit of a gap right here. Follow it across. I've got a maybe just about a pencil width there, and then you look here. That corner doesn't look good at all. Now, the problem is there's no way to stretch this patch. I'm not going to make it longer so it'll fill that curve. I'm not going to slice this and take it in and then build it all out with filler. It would be pointless. But I'm trying to get my thoughts, or the thoughts from the owner, as to what he would like me to do. What I think may be possible is if I cut off this back edge and I reform this a little bit. I want to do it as a butt weld. So I would be able to move this forward, bring this part out a little bit, maybe bend this back just a little bit, and be able to match the curve, the factory curve, and then build a filler corner to go in back here. That may be what I have to do. I don't know yet. I think he's going to check and see if he can find some more patches, but at this point I'm dead in the water. Well, I'm trying to figure out what to do with these patch panels, and I've discovered something on these fenders. Now, of course, this is the passenger side. I haven't started on it yet, but I saw that there was some variance in the way this runs out. Basically, if I put a straight edge on the fender, you can see there's a gap at this location. So I found the point at which it basically had a corner, and I measured off the distance from the straight edge to this corner. So it's about 3/4 of an inch. I had at first thought that the fenders were straight. Normally fenders come, in a straight flow, but apparently these are different. So as I got to looking at that a little more, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the other fender. I started looking at how this patch was made, and I'm not happy with the way the patch is itself, because like I think I showed before, there's this gap here, there's a gap here, and basically that's with the edge of it inside of the original radius here. So I think what they were trying to do was create this drop. Like if you put a straight edge on there like I did on the other one, it would drop back. And I don't know that this is going to work. I know the owner wants this butt welded. He doesn't want any kind of overlap, and I understand that, and I'm good with that. And he was researching other panels, and I think ultimately what I need to do is I've positioned this so that I get that same drop. If I come up here and I measure off the edge 3/4 of an inch, same thing, and then I drew a line, and that's going to be a cut line. So what I'll do is I'll cut the patch panel, cut that line, and then I will cut a line right on the edge here. The reason for that is a couple things. One, it's too short obviously, and I don't have a good crisp corner. You can see the original corner was very square. This is very rounded. So my plan is I will cut that off and reshape this and try to get a really crisp edge, and also create a longer leg. Basically straighten this out and move or stretch this length here so that I end up with a longer leg, a cleaner corner, and then it'll match down here where it meets the original fender. That's my plan. I think it'll work, but obviously I need to play with it a little bit. Things are lining up nice on this plane here, and anyway, I'll see what happens. Well, after trimming and what I feel is the right amount of metal removed, I've checked my measurements, and they're coming out where they were, 10 and a half, 10 and a half, and my 10 and a half over here, and my 10 up front is good. I do like the way it is planed out. If you look at the side, it follows the pattern of the original fender pretty well. The only difficulty is it's short. And so what I'll end up doing, like I said, I'll cut this off, rebuild this flange, lengthen this leg, and get it back in there, and again do my drop up here at the top where I was talking about that 3/4 of an inch difference. And I'll mimic the original design and make sure it matches the passenger fender. So I'm going to get started putting this together. Alright, I've got some welds in, and I did have a little issue, I had a little concern with how this was lining up on the end here, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I had put some welds in, then I basically had to cut them back out because I had to change the angle on the end. And what I'm referring to is I was concerned with how this was playing out. And you can see I have a cardboard template, and that is a cardboard template of the other fender. And it's a good idea to have as many templates as you can. And so basically this gave me a reference point as to where this should be, as well as my length measurements. And so now I have it within range of what I'm comfortable with, and I'll continue to weld this, and then like I said, I'll cut this end off and reform it and then weld it back on. Okay, so I've got all the welding done on the bulk of it. Pretty happy with how it's looking, and as you can see, possibly, I cut off that remainder of that flange. And so two choices here. I can just make a filler, or I can try to rebend this and not have a filler. And what I'm looking at, it's hard to, from over here I've got about 1/4 of an inch of extra leg on this length here compared to what's on the fender itself. So either way, I think I'm gonna redo this corner because it's just too round. I'd rather have a nice crisp corner, so I'll flatten this out and re-roll it and get a. I've got a nice straight edge on my table I can use, and I'll hammer that over and try to get a nice crisp 90-degree corner as much as I can anyway. Well, I made the corner, and I took a measurement. I did that same thing with the square. Put a straight piece of metal here, measured up here, and I got my 3/4 of an inch. So I'm happy with that. Just need to weld that in and then duplicate the holes on the side. And other than doing a little bit of finish welding here and there, that should take care of this fender patch. And there it is, with being fully welded and blended. And again, I like the transition. It flows real nice. Very happy with that. And it was a little bit short right here off this corner, but that's not going to hurt anything. And the only other thing I have left to do is I'd cut off the leg of this, the leg of this doubler. And so I rebent it as well, and I'll put that in there and weld it in, and that'll give me the doubler for the bolt hole that'll end up back here. Now I know I talked about bending this on my table, and this is pretty heavy stuff. So what I ended up doing was I took 2 plates that I had, and these were left over from the Frankentruck project. I didn't need them when I put the bed on, but it gave me some good plates, and basically I just clamped the piece of metal between the two, and I had drawn a line on it. You can see there, and I clamped it between the two and just clamped it in a vise and hammered it over, so that gives me a nice 90-degree turn. So at this point, I'm really happy with it. Everything inside looks good, and again, I just need to weld that piece in up here and then duplicate the holes that were on the original piece, if I can get a good measurement on those. So anyway, let me get that finished up, and that may be it. Alright gang, I think I'm done with this one. As you can see, I put in the 2 holes for the little extension. The one that came on this fender was rotted out. This is the one from the passenger side fender. So basically I matched the holes from that fender and then compared the mount holes with this piece, whatever that is called, I don't know. But like I said, I'm pretty happy with this one. Everything blended out nice. And so that's going to be all I'm going to do on this fender. And I've also worked on the filler piece that goes to this fender as well. I put a patch in here, had to put a patch in here, and in that process I'd removed this big heavy inner brace. So now that everything's been treated and sprayed, I'm going to reinstall this bracket, this reinforcement. So that'll be it. So I still have the other fender to do, and I did start on it. I have the inner support brace cut out of that, and I need to work on the passenger side filler piece as well. I think there's some problem. Yeah, there is right there. That's rotted up pretty good. So that's going to be it. I'm not going to film those other 2 fenders, and I need to get this moving along. So that's it for now. Just a little different project. Once again, thanks for watching.